Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. 60 years ago, Sigma made its entry felt in the photographic landscape. The birth of Sigma itself is a really interesting story. Incidentally, Sigma was born in a place called Aizu in Japan. This beautiful Edo era town of Aizu is the land where the history of samurai unfolded, with very beautiful landscapes. And every Sigma lens is still made in its factory in Aizu. Soon after its inception, Sigma started making its presence felt in the world of lenses and cameras. Sigma has been innovating for photographers ever since, and especially so in the last 2 decades, where Sigma has moved from being a company that made affordable lenses and cameras to a company that makes premium, innovative, highly regarded optics. And not just for still photography, but for cinema as well. Ladies and gentlemen, today's session is a part of a series of webinars in commemoration of Sigma's 60th year in production. Our previous two webinars were hugely insightful and happened on August 19, World Photography Day, on the subject of wedding and portraiture, and on September 2nd, on landscape and nature. Sigma's 60th anniversary celebration officially globally begins today. September 9th. On the occasion of Sigma's 60th anniversary, Sigma is specially launching a photography contest called the Sigma 60th Anniversary Commemorative Photography Awards. Entry to these awards are open, and there are 4 fun and engaging categories. These are art in nature and wildlife, emotion at weddings, classic portraiture, the decisive moment, street photography. There are some fabulous prizes to be won. The grand prize in Sigma FP, the smallest full-frame still cine specialized camera in the world. Category winners and runner-up will get a bunch of goodies: t-shirts, caps, masks, tea from Japan, and a digital subscription to Better Photography. Today's topic is one that is exciting for all: botanical portraiture, wildlife, art, and artistic nature photography. And we have some very special guests for you. So without further ado, let me introduce our first guest for this evening, Mr. Shannon Heng. He's a nature photographer from Singapore, regional ambassador for Sigma India, and master mentor with DCP expeditions. In addition to photographing wildlife, Shannon brings his appreciation for rare orchid species and plants to develop his unique style of botanical portraiture. His inspirations are drawn by lines, textures, colors, and form to capture the essence of each subject he photographs. You can see more of his work via his social media handle Through the Frame for both Facebook and Instagram. Can we have his showreel, please? Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. Thank you.
Let me begin by asking you about your shift from portraiture photography in your early years to botanical portraits. Why and when did that happen? And did portrait photography influence your ideas for botanical portraits?
Well, I'm a portraiture photographer to start with. I photograph a lot of face and people, And well, one fine day, as I was doing this portraiture work in the garden, sorry, in the garden, I finished fast. So I said, okay, let's go and do something else. And I went to take some pictures of plants and flowers. And I thought, try my hands on it and see how it's like. And applying some of my portraiture work on these plants, and that's how it actually started and began. Yeah, that's and it keeps going on and it keeps evolving from I started off with actually a single leaf, and then it started with flowers, and me having green fingers. I like to grow plants, and especially orchids. So it started there and it keeps developing and going on and on, and I'm here now. That's it. Okay. Yeah.
And did portrait photography influence your ideas for botanical portraits?
Yes, a lot, a lot. Um, do I show my picture now? Can I show some?
Yeah, you can show
Yeah,
it.
okay. Yeah, sorry. Just give me a second. Here you go. Let me share this one. Share a screen. Okay. So like this image, this actually has a lot of portraiture aspect of photography inside. One of it is what we call butterfly lighting, where we actually, you see the sides of the. Okay, I think you all can see it now. It's this is what I do is called butterfly lighting, where we light up the subject, and create a little bit shadow under the cheek and under the nose. But here on the plants, it's also applied onto this flower, and also a little bit of uplifting lighting to help lift up the tail or the spur of the plant. So this is one of it. Okay, so I have to stop sharing.
All right. Thank you, Shannon. Our next speaker for this evening is Mandar Ghumare. Mandar began his photography journey 9 years ago after quitting his corporate job. He's not only a wildlife photographer with a keen interest in macro photography, but also a wildlife conservationist. He has won over 35 national and international awards. Some of Mandar's accolades include Wildlife India Photography Award by Better Photography, India Nature Photography Award, Claw Annual Photography Award, Sanctuary Asia, Nature in Focus, and recently HPZ Changemakers. Can you please have Mandar's showreel? Thank you for joining us, Mandar. Before we move on to our next speaker, here is a question for you. From a conservation perspective, what are some of the rules you follow with photography?
There are many rules in nature photography or in the wildlife that nature and the conservation are both are interconnected. Means you don't have to disturb the animal or the subject. Means if you are disturbing the animal or any subject, then it's not a wildlife photography. Means you have to take care of that, and you have to create something. Means your image have to speak about the thousand words. Means if you are clicking some images, then it has to be means create on the impact of the people, that it should be giving us some message to save our wildlife or the nature. That nature is so much important for us. Means both are that's why both are interconnected, and we have to speak through our images.
Thank you so much. Before we introduce our next guest, a message for the viewers. If at any point during the live session you would like to ask a question to any of the panelists, please do so by simply typing your question into the comment section. Selected questions will be asked and answered live. Our next guest is Sarang Naik. He's a nature and wildlife photographer from Bombay. He specializes in creative and abstract photography and often combines the images with his poetry and prose. For the past few years, he has been photographing the urban wildlife in and around Mumbai. Sarang is a part of the marine life of Mumbai Collective. As a freelance photographer and cinematographer, he shoots corporate events, festivals, music concerts, and other projects. Can we please have it show it? So we also have a question for you, Saram. What got
Yes.
you into wildlife and nature photography and into conservation? Was it a specific moment of revelation?
What came first was the love for wildlife and research and conservation. I did my BSc in zoology, and photography sort of happened gradually over a few years. But I think the if I had to pinpoint one particular time, it would be this field trip that we had as a part of our zoology course to Narara Island, which is Marine National Park in Gujarat. And I think I saw my first octopus, first coral, first guitarfish, and a lot of other marine wildlife over there. And I had my small Kodak Digicam at that time, and that's around the time I think I started seriously thinking about photography as a profession or as a artistic outlet. And slowly it grew so much that by the time I finished college, I actually switched careers and moved completely to photography.
Thank you. Please join me in welcoming our fourth guest for this evening, Mr. P. Suresh Kumar. Suresh is the technical and sales head for Sheetala Agency Private Limited and has 20 years of expertise in handling photographic equipment. He has excellent technical knowledge about Sigma products, having experienced Sigma as a brand for many years. And he shares his knowledge through his webinars, workshops, and demo sessions across India. Thank you for being with us here, Suresh. Just a quick question for you as well. Since when have you experienced Sigma lenses or cameras? And if I were to ask you to describe your experience in a few words, how would you describe it?
See, my career is like a long story. I started from workshop and went to an electronic shop and took my career in photographic industry in 2001 in Sheetala. And Sigma, as I was being introduced to me in 2004, if I'm not wrong. Since then, I will be using the Sigma lenses and cameras, which are really interesting stuff. And I keep on traveling with DP series, actually, the short cameras with the inbuilt lenses. But I can say after the Sigma Global Vision in 2012, Sigma has evolved to a different level in photographic sector, introducing lenses which are really mind-blowing lenses. And if I can say what will be my choice for today topics, I would prefer 150-600 sports. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Once again, viewers, we are encouraging you to ask the questions via the comments. The best questions will be asked to the panel and answered live. So here is the question specially for Shannon. Lighting is particularly difficult for botanical portraits. What kind of lights do you use, and can you speak about some of the challenges that you face, especially with your lighting? Shannon, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Sorry. Hi, can you hear me now? Yes. Sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
So when it comes about lighting, most of the time, what I will be using is actually a flash, and I will shoot it wireless, remote flash system. Okay. Currently, I'm using this Godok system. Okay. Because of the size of the plant, varies a lot. Some are large, some are small. Um, Usually, I would carry about 3 or 4 flashes. And the challenges facing is because unlike a human face, which is usually uh, pretty standard, plants varies in shapes and sizes, patterns, and even depth and width. So one very important thing to know about shooting flowers is to understand the flower itself, to understand the plant itself. So a lot of research has to be done how this plant reacts to light. Maybe it reacts to the sun, some reacts to the moon because the pollinators may be different. So once we understand how the plant behaves, especially towards light or their pollinators, then we can then bring in the kind of lighting or the technique of lighting to light up the flower itself. So as I said earlier, I use the technique I use for portraiture photography. So sometimes, portraiture photography, you have the split lighting, the butterfly, the loop lighting, or even the high key phase. High key, everything is all gray, tone lighting. So judging the kind of flower and the type of story I want to tell, I will then imply or apply this kind of lighting according to the plant. According to the plant itself. So yes, it is very challenging. Most of the time, I'm unable to find the correct diffuser or to control the light onto the plant itself. Sometimes they are some plants are so unique or even so strange in shape that normal lighting or just a soft box does not work. You may need up to about 3 or 4 snoods and a soft box and also of addition to bring out the beauty or the story that it can tell or how it attracts or what I perceive as how it attracts the pollinators. So these are one of the few challenges that I faces. Other than that, is also location, bringing the light to location. Uh, yes, sometimes it's not just you don't just bring 2 or 3 flash. I bring about there are times for bigger plants I bring up to about 6 to 8 flashes with me, with batteries and lots of batteries. So some people ask, why flash? Why not bring one of those big strobe lights? Because sometimes we never know what we're going to get, and we may have big plants or small plants, and we want to photograph it, and we need to work with small lights and then add on with it if we need more or less. Then we can take off. And then there's also a lot of other diffusers that I also made myself, specifically for photographing plants. Okay, Nilofer.
Thank you. So once again, we are coming back to you, Shannon. You have begun using 3D printing to make your own lighting modifiers. In fact, you have become quite an expert at it. So how did that happen, and can you show us a few 3D printed examples?
Okay. What happened was, in my photography, because sometimes I need to control a light in a certain direction, stack stack different grids, or even a snoot, or even change the colors to what I need to create a certain kind of mood. So in order to do that, I usually look around, go out to the market, photography shops, and ask, "Do you have this? Do you have that?" And one fine day, a good friend of mine who owns the shop tells me, "You are very troublesome. You're a very, very troublesome person. You're giving. I don't have all this stuff. Go make it yourself." So I decided that he's right, and I started making it myself. So the first one I made was a grid, which I used tape and straws. You can see the straws, tape, to create a grid to the size that I wanted. This is my first version. I still keep it to make me remember, and then it followed by the round version. Okay, but all this stuff they spoil very fast because I make a lot of them and they keep spoiling and they spoil, and except for the first one, it still lasts. Some of them the tape has already came out. So when I shifted to this Godox V1, they have this they have this metal ring around, which then we can use and just clip it on, and it will not drop. So if I need more, I just stack it up. I can stack it up. So this is the grid, and I can stack even snoots on it. And if I want to change the color, I stack a diffuser like this, and a different shape and sizes. There are many different kind of things that I'll make, and sometimes I even print this kind of holders to hold certain parts of the lighting like this. And even a simple thing like this, which holds the bulb. Sometimes I need constant light for the time lapse that I shoot. So you need something to hold the bulb or the lighting, soft lighting. One of them is actually holding the light that's shining on me. So, all these things are all printed. I 3D printed, I designed, I 3D printed. It's still an ongoing journey. I'm still not the expert, but I'm improving. Things are getting better, and I'm using more different materials. I moved towards carbon fiber, PETG, or even carbon fiber nylon to print. So they're actually very tough, and actually I can actually bring them out into the field and really put them through the paces. Yeah. For this, this is a little bit soft. Sometimes it may break. Yeah. Okay, Nilofer.
Thank you so much. The next question is for Sarang. You move between black and white and color, documentary and art photography. Can you tell us something more about this, like how this transition has occurred?
Okay, yeah. So in the beginning, I think when I got really seriously interested in photography, I sort of made this rule for myself that I'm only going to shoot black and white. Part of the reason was because at that time, I think colors just felt overwhelming to me. There was just too many options. So this was a way sort of to narrow down my perspective. I put some certain limits on myself so that I could be free to be creative within those limits, and it did work. For quite a few years I was shooting like exclusively black and white. Even within the camera I was shooting in the monochrome mode, and so I could just focus on the shapes, the composition, the quality of light, the tones of gray, and it was amazing practice actually. Of course, after certain time it became too much, and like I felt like I needed to move on to other things, and that's when I started shooting more and more color. And it felt like there was in between there was a certain time where I wasn't sure what to do, where to go. And but once I decided to go in this one particular direction, it was sort of like a natural flow, and I started shooting more and more color. And nowadays I think I'm shooting more in color than in black and white. So it's been an interesting journey, and it's both those techniques have taught me quite a bit. And one thing I've learned is to always try and put these certain limitations on you. It could be just shooting black and white, or it could be shooting with a particular lens, or shooting just in a particular location, going there again and again to try and create more images. That really helps you to be creative within that limited time frame.
All right, thank you. Another question for you. Um, you write poetry. You write poetry to the things that you see and capture. Some of it is quite lovely. There is an example. This is a poetry that you call a portrait or a starving artist. moonstruck lunatic stumbling through eternity, the protagonist of a self produced tragedy. With one hand, he clutches his wounded heart, with the other, he attempts poetry. So tell us a bit about your poetry and your photography.
Well, poetry, I think, started long time before photography. I think I've been writing some type of poetry since I was like a really young kid, and most of it was just really bad poetry, honestly, throughout school and college. But it was a really good way of creating something. It was a creative outlet, and somehow it's still. I've somehow still kept going. I think I also tried to become a content writer at one part time in my life. But after a certain time, I realized that I just didn't want to get into this professionally, and I just wanted to keep it personal and let it come and go as it pleased. With photography, I think what has happened is that I take pictures and then I get inspired to write a poem after based on that picture. So that is how I've somehow continued with poetry, but I'm still not like very consistent with it. I just let it come and go as it pleases, and it sort of really complements my photography quite well, I think.
Okay, thank you so much. Mandar, this is for you. Your photography is evocative and seems particularly challenging. What is your process and how do you go about preparing for your photographs? And how long does it take for you to get an award winning image?
There is two types of award-winning images. Means you have to be at the right place and the right time, so you can get the award-winning images. Or sometimes you have to create the image, which can take you for the years or 2 years. Means if you can create the image, then you can take means you can take awards. And there are two different things. Means if you are creating image, then you have to pre-visualize it. It means what subject you are shooting, what type of light you have to use, and what type of light condition are there are. Means you have to choose your means uh, the frame first, then the lights, and then the what is the missing in the frame. If you are clicking some images, then you have to check the your images after some time, and then you have to check what is missing. If you can find the what is missing in your image, then you can create something new. If you can't find the what is missing in your image, then you will continue the same as the last time. But if you can find that thing, then you can create something new. That's why you have to be means you have to check, you have to pre-visualize, and you have to means uh, you have to make something new.
Okay, thank you. The other question for you is very exciting for the viewers. Can you quickly take us through five of your favorite photographs and let us know where you make these images and the equipment you use to make them?
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Can you see it?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. This image was taken at Badlapur with Nikon D750 with 105, and it was taken after the first lockdown. At that time, I was getting bored in home for the 4 to 5 months, and then when unlock happened, at that time I started going to my backyards, which is nearby, for 10 to 15 minutes by walking. So at that time I was shooting the fungi, and I saw that one moth is attracted towards the light. So at the time, I pre-visualized my shot. I gave one light on the fungi and one light on the moth, and the third light towards the direction of the camera to create the that blue effect. So you have to means you have to pre-visualize. You have to check. Uh, this image was taken at Matharan. Those are bees. which has drawn into water. Uh, this image was taken in summer season. At that time, bees drink water from small puddles, and because of the dry means because of the wet wings, they die in the water. So for this, I gave one light from underwater and one flash from the upside to illuminate the bees. After this shot, I was means after 2 days, I was bitten by the fireflies. uh, and this shot was taken at Kurk with the wide angle 20 lens. For this shot, I give two different lights, one with the snoot and the other one from the left side to illuminate the tree. So I'm giving the light on the tree. So my subject is popping up, and the background is still in the dark. This image was taken at the Matheran. On the first trip, I created one shot with the still image. After going home, I was checking my shots, and I was thinking, well, something is missing, something is missing. So next on the next trip, I tried this shot with the slow shutter. Those are water skitters on the right side, and on the left side, those are water bugs. Water bugs try to kill those water skitters, but water skitters are very fast. So at this time, I use three different lights, three different flashes to freeze these water skitters, and one light on the bugs to create create motion blur. uh, and this is one of the common species of the vine snake, which is found in India. Uh, this snake is means you can find anywhere in India, but you have if you are experimenting something with the same subject or a common subject, then you can create something new like this. And you can in first view you are thinking like it's a rope, but it's not a rope, it's a vine snake with the different light conditions. So you have to you have to play with the lights, you have to play with your subject, you have to spend the time with the subject and create something new. So that's it.
Thank you so much, Mandar.
Thank you.
Sarang, can you share a few of your images, please, with a brief explanation?
Yes, sure. Yeah, can you see it?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. Um, yeah, just let me check if this is the first image. Yeah, okay. I think what I really enjoy doing is shooting somewhat commonplace subjects in a creative way. And which basically, what I'm trying to prove is that you don't have to go to all these exotic locations or sanctuaries or parks to shoot wildlife images. Wildlife is everywhere. So this is just a spider web in my house, in my window. It's being lit by rays of sunlight from behind, and if you ever noticed that with backlight, the spider web always glimmers with this iridescence. And that is exactly what's happening here. I just shot it handheld with a simple macro lens, and I got this image. This is one of my personal favorite images. Again, the common subject, seagulls in Mumbai, which are like found almost everywhere near the water in the winter season. These guys were just floating around in the water next to the gateway of India, and I placed my camera on them and took a slow shutter speed image, and the movement created these beautiful patterns. Uh, this is flamingos in Navi Mumbai, I think 3 years ago. And there's one lake right behind this residential complex where these flamingos come and rest in between the tides. And I got this image when they're flying into the lake, and it creates a nice juxtaposition with the flamingos in the front and uh, the buildings right behind them. Um, this is again created within the limits of Mumbai. No special photography zone, no parks. It's just the seashore of Mahalakshmi, right next to Haji Ali. These what you're seeing in the foreground are the zoanthids. They are type of soft coral, and I've put ultraviolet light on them, a LED torch, basic LED torch, and in the dark they basically glow in ultraviolet light. So I created this vertical wide angle scene with the zoanthids in the foreground and the city lights just coming on in the background. And that again created a very nice perspective of Mumbai city that most of us don't know about. Finally, this is one of the more recent shots that I took last year. Uh, Almost during the lockdown, just a couple of months after the lockdown, I think. Again, this was right outside my parents' house in Palghar. This was one mushroom that I really liked, and I put a torch behind it. The torch was hiding right behind the mushroom, which helped illuminate this cloud of spores that was coming out. And since it was right outside the house, I spent like many nights trying to perfect all the composition, the lighting, and everything. And I finally started getting a few images after a few nights, and that is how I finally got this one image. So I think basically the thing I'm trying to say through these images is that you don't have to go searching for wildlife to some faraway places. It's always around you. You just have to pay attention. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sarang. Shannon, can you please share a few of your images with an example?
Okay, hi, sure. Just give me a second. Let me get the pictures up. Mm, Okay. So, okay, can you all see it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. So this is one of the plants. Okay, uh, just give me a second. It's called a Jumela punctata. Okay, it's a orchid from the Amazon region. And it so happened that this specimen was housed in a private collector's greenhouse in Singapore. And it was going to flower, and he called me up and says, "Hey, do you want to take a photograph of this very unique plant?" I said, "Okay, flowers from the Amazon." So I said, "Okay, fine." And I came down and take a look at it. And of course, when I photographed this plant, when I first see this flower, it was not open yet. It was closed. So it was a few days before it blooms. And from there onwards, then we start to say, okay, how am I going to what we call compose this image, how to tell a story. So I did some research, and after reading about it and seeing how the plant actually grows itself, I decided to do a form of like a cross through the whole composition itself. And using, just now I think I've jumped the gun and said using what we call butterfly lighting for this plant. If you have noticed that this plant, we have a very long tail, it's called a spur. What's unique about this plant is that it is pollinated by moth during the night. So it actually opens up and it produces a certain form of fragrance that will attract the moth at the night. And this moth, why moth? Because moth has a very long tongue, which will then reach all the way into this spur to get to the nectar. And while the moth is doing it, the flower will actually put some pollen on the moth before he flies to the next flower, and then it goes on pollinating the other itself. So when I saw that, I said, usually people will focus on the flower and then sort of lost the focus on the little spur, which is actually the unique part of this flower. So in this shot, it's actually involved two lightings. One which is one flash with a soft box, a small little soft box, in the form of in the form of butterfly lighting, to light up the flower. Okay, so that there's actually a little bit of shadow on the left and right petal, making it look a little bit more three dimension. Okay, and then the second light is actually on the snoot, which a little bit lower power, and it fires bottom up to light up the little tail, the little spur, the tip of the spur, to give it, to say that, hey, look, the spur is very important, and this is how it actually this plant reproduce. So this is the story behind this flower itself. From the time of seeing this flower and to the time I shoot it is a span of, I think, about 5 days. When I first see it, of course, we usually, or I usually visit or see the plant first, and then then we decide how we are going to, or I decide how I should shoot it, what is the composition, how to adjust, what are the other equipment, and I usually visit this plant 3 or 4 times throughout the period of waiting for it to bloom, to actually see how it actually blooms. Because before it blooms, it may be pointing at another direction, but when it blooms, it actually reacts differently, or lifts its head, or what we call lift the flower up differently. So we must always look at it and review it and say, okay, will this work, will this method work, or this way of shooting it works, or that way of shooting it works. So through that 4 to 5 days, I would actually make a decision, and then during the shot day itself, then we set up the lighting, and then we will shoot it. Okay, so this one. The next one I'm going to talk about is this plant, is this flower. One thing about botanical portraiture that I do, or a series of shots that I do, is called lightness of being. It is actually photographing the flower to look at as though it is illuminated. The left side, as you can see, it's a raw image, and the right side is tuned. So if you were to take a look, there's actually very little difference in this left and right. Why I brought this up is because these images are actually shot in the day in the garden itself. Why do I shoot the flowers in the day? Because certain flowers, or most flowers, they will actually close up a little bit during the night if their pollinators are day pollinators. They will actually close up a little bit to protect themselves. So this is part and parcel of understanding how plants work. So I have to photograph it in the day so that it opens up and it looks more glamorous. And in order to do that, I have to wait. Actually, I waited a lot. It took me 3 to 4 days before I can even get this shot. It just took me 10 seconds to shoot it, but it takes 3 or 4 days to wait. What was I waiting? I was waiting for a cloud to cover the sky and to create a certain light, where I can get up to about I can get up to one almost up to 1.5 stop, so that I can get a dark background. Okay, so it's actually a lot of waiting. I was sitting there, looking at the plant, looking at the sky, hoping for a right cloud to come in, drinking my coffee, reading my book, wait for the cloud, and if it doesn't work, I come back the next day. So that's how I approached it. So after I managed to get about 4 to 5 shots with the lighting, again, this takes about 2 lighting, both with grid, the one that I've made, as you have seen earlier. After that, I went back, and if you look at the tune image, a little bit was done for the control of the color balance, or the white balance. And then I have also tuned a little bit of the shadows and the darks to give it a little bit more form. I mean, some of you may have watched some comic, like DC comics or Marvel comics, and you look at the superhero, and you look at them and says, hey, why are they so ribbed? Their muscles are so ribbed. It is because the artist will darken the lines in between the muscles. This is exactly what I'm doing to the flower. I darken the lines a little bit, the shadows on the lines of the petals, giving it a more three-dimension look. Because after all, raw image are pretty much flat right out from the camera. So what I was going to say is that editing your image is also important, but we have to do it subtly, and also to bring out the plants, using different forms and technique, something like what I said, playing with the shadows to bring out the lines and the shapes, of the image. Okay, next one. Okay, most of the time I work with very, very small, or a lot of time I work with very, very small plants or flowers. Most of the time people go for those big showy flowers, the roses, the hibiscus, which are huge and large. But I'm especially fascinated with the small ones, the tiny, minute ones. As you can see in this image, okay, these are really, really small. They are about 2 millimeter tall per flower. 2 millimeter tall. That is, it's just so tall. And sometimes you wonder, what is the pollinator? Who is pollinating such small flowers? It can't be a bee, because the bee is way bigger than this flower. An expert have ever told me that mites, small little mites, are its pollinators. Mites that are so small, sometimes you need a microscope to look at it. And when we look at all these flowers, people usually walk past them, and some will never even see them in their whole life. But for me, I like to go low to the ground and look for all these flowers. And some of them have such thin petals. The petals are so thin that it's almost translucent. And the beauty of it is that when light hits them, when the flashlight or any sunlight that hits the petals at a certain angle, they actually glitters like little jewels. It just glitters and little sparkles. So how do I actually notice this glitter and sparkles? It's actually watching these plants, looking at it in the day, in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, and see how when the lights of the sun, light from the sun hits the plant, and how it actually looks. And sometimes it makes me wonder, or this, the flower does not glitter, but when sunlight hits it and it glitters, is that the way it attracts the pollinator? I mean, it's very fascinating when you look at all this stuff. There's a lot of questions, and a lot of them are unanswered. Both by academic people and and in some of my shoots, I know we even found that certain flowers, they actually react to static from the insects and pollinators. So what happened is that when the pollinator fly close to the pollen or close to the flower, it has a static electricity that actually pulls the insects towards the pollen and locks it up. And before it puts a little pollen on the plant, and then later it release and let the insects fly away, the pollinators fly away. It's very fascinating. I've seen some of it in action itself while I was photographing, and it's quite interesting. And that is why I have been in this botanical portraiture or photography work, and still going on strong. And it has always kept me very interested in things. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Before we move ahead, we have a question by Saili Ashar for Mandar and Sarang. She's asking, many garden parks and photography areas are still opening in India. What places can we visit for wildlife photography, especially in Maharashtra? So, Sarang, would you like to go first?
I go ahead. Yeah. I think I already spoke a little bit about this a while back. But the first thing I would encourage you to think is like stop thinking from the point of view of photography areas and non-photography areas. For me, everything is a photography area. So just keep an eye out for something interesting in and around your house, or maybe if you want to get out of the city. Try and go to your native place or your relative's place somewhere in the village side or somewhere in the countryside if you have access to that. If not, then I think if you are stuck within the city, then as I said, your home could be a source of good, at least macro photography. There are a lot of spiders around, definitely. There are a lot of other insects around that you might have noticed otherwise, but if you decide to look for it, you might see them. Other thing, if you really want to go outside, I think I would suggest these same gardens, parks, and like say national park, suppose. Uh, they are a lot less crowded in the middle of the day and during the weekday. So if you can find time to go there during this in the middle of the week, I think it's a lot more safer. And I'm sure national park is definitely open right now. In Mumbai, at least. Outside Mumbai, I'm not sure about the rules. So all the parks and nature trails are definitely open in Mumbai right now.
Yeah, Mandar, can you also?
Uh, I would like to say that means if you are shooting something, then be specific about your subject. Means if you want to shoot birds, then go for birding spots. If you want to shoot macro, then you can find it anywhere. If you want to shoot mammals, then there are many national parks which are opening, but due to means monsoon, it is closed. But means first find your subject which you have to shoot, then choose your place. If you want to if you want to shoot macro, then it's everywhere. And keep exploring new places instead of going means popular places. I would say that if you are in if you're in Mumbai, then find something which is a greener. If you are in the village side, then anything can work. Anything can work. So try hilly areas, try grasslands, try something new.
Thank you so much. Um, So I have a question for Mr. Suresh. Sigma is now known as a premium lens brand worldwide. So can you tell us a bit more about Sigma's latest lenses, especially for wildlife, botanical portraits, macro, and artistic nature photos?
Yeah, sure. For this, I like to give a small presentation. So can we go to the presentation, please? If my screen is visible to you.
Yes, it is now.
Yes. So I love to present today the 150-600 Sports DGDN OS. Uh, it comes in L mount and Sony E mount because this is related to our topic today, wildlife. So we all know that Sigma launched 150-600 contemporary version first in the beginning, and later they moved to the sports version because since wildlife it's not only we need wildlife lenses with more durable and something like weather shield which can be used in climatic condition, different climatic conditions. So when you're comparing sports with contemporary, it's a little bit heavier but more durable. So Sigma released the same 150-600 DGDN Sony version instead of contemporary. They directly landed to the sports, and we see what are the advantages with the new release 150-600 DGDN for L mount and Sony E mount. The first, it covers up to 600 mm, and it's an excellent optical quality. And we have the opportunity which is not available with the contemporary version. It's a dust proof and the flash resistant. And when comparing to the sports version of Canon and Nikon, this L mount and Sony E mount DGDN version is slightly lighter than the regular one. So it covers even better optical quality, sports line mechanical specs, compact and lightweight. So we'll see some brief about the 3 points. First, we will see even better quality. How it's even better quality than the previous models. So it's 25 element grouped in 15 groups, and you can see this yellow. Yellow is nothing but FLD glasses, and the blue stands for SLD, which helps us to meet all the light in the same point so that we won't get any aberrations. Here we can see the MTF chart. The vertical portions, it starts from 0 to 1, which gives the performance of the contrast and the sharpness. And bottom horizontal line is the image height, center to the peripheral line, that means the edge of the image. The red line indicates the contrast and the green line indicates the sharpness. So in this diffraction chart, you can see the performance of DGDN is better than the contemporary and sports versions of the Nikon and Canon mount. We can move to the next slide. This is geometrical version of the same. Geometrical version is nothing but it's like a theoretical chart which they make it on the lab, and this diffraction is something like practical. So when you're comparing this both the charts, it's clearly visible that the new DGDN is superior than the contemporary and the sports version of the previous one. So prime class optical quality. So Sigma has done its best to keep it down the aberrations like coma aberration, astigmatation, and lateral chromatic aberrations. We can see some pictures to understand what is this. The first one is chromatic aberrations. So in this you can see there is an optical error with some tail, like some tail light effect. So what happens is you can't able to get more details on the picture. And this one is astigmatism. Astigmatism is nothing but the pointed light. It's splitted into two on both the sides, like left and right. You can see like a bird, small insects or bird flying shape. So this also will spoil our picture, and it won't give more detail on the picture. And we are very aware of this. This is the lateral chromatic aberrations, where you can see this purple fringes. The reason to get this purple fringes of the images, all the lights are meeting or not meeting in the same point. So these are errors actually. All these three pictures are errors. So Sigma has done its best to keep it very clear to bring it down. This picture I want to show reason when we see the MFT chart from the center to the peripheral, that means center to the edge, the image was sharper when you are comparing with the previous versions. In this image also you can see from left to right and center, the image is very clear. So DGDN rocks actually. This is one interesting thing. Most of the telephoto lenses will not have this close shot. So with 150 mm, you can go up to 58 centimeter close-up. So this telephoto lens can be used for macro close-up as well. And sports light mechanical specs. So we have seen the better optical quality, what is mean by better optical quality, how it differs from the previous versions. Now we'll see the sports light mechanical specs. So it's a dust and flash resistant structure. You can see that it has all the each and every element has been covered with the rubber sheet to protect the dust and the splash. And the same thing what we get in contemporary also, the water and oil repellent coating on the front element, so that if something goes, we can easily wipe it out, so it won't merge with the lens. And this is the unique feature added to the sports lineup this year, zoom touch switch. So it's light, tight, and smooth. Lock, L stands for lock, T stands for tight, and S stands for smooth. I think people can understand seeing this picture. So when you are moving up or down, so you can move that switch to the tight, so that the zoom barrel will be tight, so it won't fall immediately back. Compact and lightweight. How it's compact and lightweight when comparing to the previous post version. You can see this picture. The first one is DGDN with 2.1 kg. The same sports version which has been released for Canon and Nikon with 2.8 kg, and the contemporary version it's 1.9 kg. So the new DGDN, they have done the best to equalize to the contemporary version so that it will be lighter for traveling. And we have option both 1.4x and 2x teleconverter, so which you will get multiplied with 1.4x into 600 mm and 2 into 600 mm. Then you will have 120 mm focal length. And even with the APS sensor, it will be more. And we have the USB dock here for L mount at the moment, so that you can configure your focusing speed to the custom setting. And focus limit also, you can adjust 3 custom setting on it, so it can be done connected to the USB dock. We not only have the 150/600 DGDN for Sony and L mount, we also have 100/400, but it's not a sports version. 100/400 is a contemporary version. And this is for Mandar, Sarang, and for Shannon also. This is the 150 mm f2.8 DGDN macro lens, recently launched for L mount and Sony E mount. In future, we will see new things coming for Nikon and Canon. And the advantage is you can use the same teleconverter for this 105 mm macro, both 1.4x and 2x. So this is the effect what you get with 1.4 and 2x. Just to understand, I have added this slide. So with the standard macro lens without any teleconverter, the A looks this. With 1.4, the A looks a little bigger, and 2x it's more bigger. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sudesh. We have one more question for you. Over the years, Sigma has developed some path-breaking cameras too. Can you tell us a bit about the latest ones from Sigma and
Yes,
about the lenses?
yes. Sigma recently launched its Sigma FPL, the successor model of Sigma FP. So we will have a small slide presentation for this. So before going this presentation, I request Mr. Nitin to play the sports video to the viewers. Mr. Nitin, can you please that sports version video for the viewers before moving to the camera slide? And we have one more video. Thank you, Nitin. Yes, before moving to the camera part, I like to give a reminder for the viewers regarding the two more webinar on the upcoming photography versions. One is on 16th September. Sarada Silomani will be presenting the street and portraiture, and 23rd September, Sheetak will be presenting the importance of E mount and L mount. So there is two webinar on the pipeline. So I request all the viewers to join with us on 16th and 23rd. So now we will move on to the camera part. So we move on to the slide now. Is my screen is visible to you?
Yes, it is now.
Yes. In 2019, Sigma launched its new form of camera called Sigma FP. Really, it's the smallest modular camera designed to be very flexible, adaptable, and fun to use. And this year, they released a Sigma FPL. It's a successor model of Sigma FP. And the key difference is on the pixels. The Sigma FP was around 24 megapixels, but FPL comes with the 61 megapixels, which gives more detail into photography. And when you're comparing with cinematography, both gives the 4K cinema DLG raw output. And as I told you, this is an adaptable camera, so it can be adaptable from a portraiture to a cine style. So complete pack. There is a seamless switch, which is not available with other brand of cameras. I don't want to mention the brand names. You can see a small switch over there. When you switch from cine to still or still to cine, the camera complete setup changes according to your choice. So we call it a seamless switch. The key features: it's a still camera where you can take stunning pictures with a 61 megapixels, and we called this camera as a powerhouse for cinematographers. So it can be moduled to the big setup, or it can be used simply with a 45 and it's also can be used as a web camera with a 4K. It's not a normal MOV format or something like that. It can give a live transmission with a 4K out. And the really interesting part is the director's viewfinder. So this it's majorly used in cinematography. Normally, when the directors travel to see some locations, if you want to capture something, it doesn't need any crew or big cameras or huge equipment to capture that particular scene. So you can simply use the director's viewfinder and choose the red camera or a Rari or a Sony model and simply record it. And this footages can be later combined with the original footage what they shoot with Arri Red or Sony cameras. And you may wonder, the camera is tiny, then now I am going to carry my huge lenses with this. So Sigma always take one step forward. So recently they have launched I-series lenses, which are really similar to the pancake lenses, easy for carrying, and you can enjoy while shooting. And it comes with the two mount adapters. If they have if they have EF mount lenses already, if somebody says I already have EF lenses, how to use in this L mount camera, because FP and FPL native mount is L mount, so they can use the MC21 adapter and they can use that EF lenses. With the MC31 adapters, they can use the cinema lenses PL mount, because cinema lenses will come with PL mount, which is called positive log. Because cinema lenses are slightly heavier when you're comparing with photographic lenses. So it's like a log type. Thank you. So Mr. Nitin will play as a concept video for Sigma FPL now to the viewers. Before moving on to the next, dear viewers, please join us on 30th September, where cinematographer Mr. Nishant Gala will be exploring more about this Sigma FP camera. It will be a more interesting session. So please join us with us on 30th September. So please take a note of it. Thank you.
Um, Thank you, Mr. Suresh. This brings us to the conclusion of this session, but this is just the third of the Sigma 60th anniversary series of webinars. You will find more information on all webinars in Better Photography Magazine and or our Instagram page. But please do take a note. On 16th September, Sarathe Salvamani will speak to us on street and portrait photography. On 23rd September, Shetak will speak on importance of E and L mount lenses. And on 30th September, Nishant Gala will talk on cinematography using the Sigma FP. With that, I would like to remind all viewers that the Sigma 60th Anniversary Commemorative Photography Awards are now open for entries. Entries are accepted in 4 categories: art in nature and wildlife, emotion at weddings, classic portraiture, the decisive moment, street photography. There are some exciting prizes to be won. The grand prize is the world's smallest full frame camera, stills and cine camera, the Sigma FP. But before we end the session, please join me in welcoming Mr. Anand Seshan, the founder and director of Sheetala Agency and representing Sigma in India. Mr. Seshan, welcome and over to you.
Hello, everybody. Sorry, I'm a bit late. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
you are.
Thanks, Nilofer. I think the webinar was very, very informative, very interesting, and it kind of covered a lot of things. I would just like to add that today is the 60th anniversary of Sigma. Sigma has come a very, very long way. My association with Sigma is about 15 years. I would say it would be 15 crucial years of Sigma for me to have understood the nature of Sigma's way of thinking, because I've been associated with Sigma for about 15 years, but I've been in the photographic line as a distributor, reseller, importer, service provider for about 30 years. And I would just like to stress that the art of photography, as you can see in the webinar itself today, has changed so much. Very, very young people are extremely talented by way of being self-taught, by way of technology being available to them, and they are not afraid of conforming to any kind of parameters. They are ready to change, to do something different. And I can see from the 3 of them speaking just now that actually 30 years back, equipment spoke a lot, but today, equipment doesn't really speak a lot. Equipment, compliments, brings out what they are able to do as artists. That's light, understanding many, many aspects, independent of equipment. And today, the whole cycle has come along from the 35 days. I'm sure Madhav will remember, everything was manual, full format manual. Then it went to automatic program. Then it's coming back to manual now because the artistic trend is very strong right now. And Sigma's exciting journey for me with Sigma is that they don't speak, they don't sit quiet, they don't allow the road to go. They keep watching ahead and have been adapting very, very fast, which has really made them a strong contender, strong player who has got the respect of global photographers. And photographers today are far more experienced, hands-on, and you can't, you cannot pull the wool over their head in any way before. So it's really exciting, and only the good can keep up to it. So it's been a very exciting ride for us, and Sigma Corporation conveys its gratitude, its thanks to all users of Sigma for all the last 60 years. Without them, Sigma and the channel partners of Sigma will not be where we are. And Sigma promises to give everybody fantastic technology-driven, quality-driven lenses and cameras to come. Thank you, Nilka.
Thank you so much, Mr. Station. I would like to end our session with a particularly beautiful meet video, especially for those of you who also love landscape. This is chapter 3 of Sigma Aizu, the place where Sigma was born.
柏木恭平22歳です。ちょっと雪降った時とかはいつもより30分とか1時間早く起きて、いつも5時半とかまず雪かきしてからの出社になりますね。吹雪の日でも出社はするようにはなってますんで、地元は好きですね。やっぱ冬だけはどうしても他のところへ行きたいという気持ちも出てはくるんですけど、主な修理内容は手ブレ補正機能の不具合、OS の不具合、あとは合掌性ピントの不具合だったり、言ってしまうと結構いろいろな症状があって結構キリがないんですけど、一番難しいのが露出の不具合とか、あと改造造面の方の不具合とかが来るときはちょっと時間もかかっちゃいますし、一番大変ですね。やっぱお客さんの方でその星空撮った時に、改造が悪いっていうことであったんですけど、夜、仕事をしてるわけじゃないので星空を撮るということはめったにないんですけど、でこっちで日中撮っては全然問題なくて、夜空で出るってなるとやっぱりなんていうんですかね、お客さんのことにやっぱ応えなきゃいけないっていう感じがちょっとあるんで、レンズを交換したり、レンズのカシメがしてあるんですけど、それをちょっと押し込んで調整してみたり、やりだすとちょっと時間もかかってしまってキリがないんですけど、そうやって調整していくしかないので改造は一番大変ですね。以前のレンズとかは投影機のプロジェクターを使ってのちょっと改造確認になりますね。望遠、ちょっとあまりにも長い望遠になりますとちょっと特殊な装置で撮るようになる場合もあります。本当にわからないやつは課長やら主査やらに聞くんですけど、それで詳しい検査が必要って分かったら他の部署の方にこちらから直接連絡してお願いするという形をとってます。それが古い機種に限ってはもうパーツの在庫の方も限られてまして、その中でどう修理するかってなって、部品も望遠とかになってしまうと部品が国際化になくて新しく作るという発注をしなきゃいけないんです。大変ですね。 まあ OK になるのもありますし、いくらレンズを交換しても全然ダメなのもありますし、そのどこが悪いっていう確実なところが明確じゃないんで、そこを探すのが一番大変ですね。他の人の方がやっぱ経験も上なので、やはり昔のはどうしても今のレンズとは全く異なった感じなんで、調整の仕方もまた変わってくるものなので、今ちょっと古い、レンズに詳しい方が一人までいらっしゃるんですけど、主にその人にちょっと聞いたり相談したりして、どう対応したらいいかの方を聞いてますね。やはり見習うところはいっぱいあります。どのレンズを着ても全部対処できる、やっぱそういう人物にはなりたいと思いますね。そういった面で日々勉強が大切だと思ってます。
A huge and hearty happy 60th anniversary to Sigma. In fact, can we wish Sigma together happy 60th anniversary? Looking forward to another 60 years of optical brilliance.
Yes. Yep. Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
A big thank you to all our panelists, Shannon, Sarang, Mandar, Suresh, and Mr. Session. And to all of you viewers for tuning in. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.